I chose this drawing for the beginning of this chapter, brothers and sisters, because this chapter is very much about Luffy and his unwavering, undying determination and resolve. Remember to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook for more. One Piece, Chapter 99. Luffy died. What? Luffy can't die?
Hello, my brothers and sisters of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, here to bring you another review on the epic and action-filled tale of One Piece. Our last chapter saw us being reintroduced to Lady Alvida, now having the power of the Slip fruit, looking very nice, I guess you would say is a word for it. Gorgeous. Certainly looks a mite different than she did when we saw her way back in chapter 2. And also she has teamed up, of course, with Buggy and his pirate crew. And the chapter left us with Luffy being on top of the scaffold that Gold Roger was executed on 22 years ago, and he had been, basically tackled from behind by Kabaji, and he's about to be executed. That Buggy is pissed off for what he did to him, and he's pretty much dreamt about it every day since then, and that's what gave him the strength to go and find his crew and retrieve his body parts and everything else. So that's where we left off. That's where things begin. There is a huge crowd, of course, in the square. Buggy and Alvida's pirate crew have pretty much surrounded the area, or the area around the scaffold, around the platform, and and Buggy's basically going, "We're going to have this grand execution," and it's pretty comical because Luffy still doesn't seem to take it seriously. Luffy's like, "Oh wait, who's getting executed?" And he's like, "You are, you idiot." And like I said, there's just kind of a couple pages of this sort of thing where Buggy's kind of like, hey, he wants to see him grovel and beg for his life. You know what I mean? That's what people do usually before they're going to be executed. And there's really none of that in Luffy. There's no give. There's no nothing when it comes to that. We do see all of Sanji, Zoro, Nami, and Usopp. Nami and Usopp are going to head for the ship, and Usopp's like, well, why would we do that? And Nami's like, you idiot, there's a storm coming. The barometric pressure is dropped, the storm clouds are moving in. This is the calm before the storm. What good is it going to do if Luffy can get away or can be rescued from this situation he's in if we have no ship to go back to, no boat to sail away from here? So Usopp's like, okay, great, you're right, and he's running. He's still got that big ass fish that Sanji had bought. So they're running towards the ship. We then go and we see a rather comical thing, I think. We haven't seen Mohji in a while. Mohji, the lion tamer, and Richie. And we see him, and he is riding Richie like he's a motorcycle, like he's a Harley Davidson. He has taken and put in a reflector or headlight type thing on the top of Richie's head. He's taken his mane and twisted it, kind of braided it and tied it off and turned it into like handlebars. And he's like, "Who's riding a Richie bike? I am." And Richie just looks like, okay, whatever, man, So they're at the port. They have found the merry-go, and he basically says, hey, listen, I'm sure that Captain Buggy has executed Luffy by now, but in the slim chance that he hasn't or that he gets away, we're going to make sure that we burn his ship. So that's obviously his goal, his orders are to take care of that. We then go and we see back towards the square. We see Captain Smoker and of course some of his his guys getting ready, some of his officers, and they're all getting ready surrounding the square, carrying out his orders from the last chapter. And somebody's like, "Should we move in on him?" And he's like, "No, are you crazy?" He's like, "No, let them fight it out." And basically once they execute Luffy, then we'll go and we'll surround Alvida and Buggy and their remaining pirates, and because somebody's like, oh, somebody says something to the effect of, like, we can't let him get away, and he's just like, you idiot, have we ever let a pirate get away, get escape from our island? No, sir, So you can see that he's instead of trying to fight all of them, he's playing it smart, which it really is intelligent. It's a good tactic. Let them fight each other and weaken themselves, and especially if Luffy's got this huge bounty on his head, there's a reason for it, right? So if he can be taken out, that takes out one of the big players of the equation. You got less people to worry about surrounding and trying to capture now. So then it goes back to the platform. And I thought this was kind of significant, and that there was a really kind of a turning point for me as far as between thinking Luffy's kind of single-minded and sort of dumb, and thinking that Luffy's just sort of single-minded and brave, And he's up on the platform, and Buggy goes and he says, is there any last words and this and that? And then Luffy's just kind of like, no, he doesn't say anything at first, and it goes to the next page or whatever. And then Luffy's just like, I'm gonna be king of the pirates, right? And I mean, he yells it out, he just shouts it out from that. You gotta remember the scaffold's in the middle of this square, 30 feet in the air, 40 feet in the air, whatever it is. It's high up, you can see everybody. And I mean, even people in the crowd are like, wow, but he's got balls, you know what I mean? What a dreamer, what a this, what a that, And Luffy's absolutely fearless and single-minded in what he says, and at this point he's kind of come to the realization. At one point he says to Buggy, he's like, "Hey, listen, man, I'm sorry, you don't got to do this. You don't got to kill me." And Buggy's like, "Are you kidding? You think you're gonna get out of this?" But he never begs for his life. He never asks for forgiveness. He never, you know what I mean? He's never asking Buggy like, "Could you please spare me?" or anything like that. He comes to the point where he's just gonna accept his fate. Well, at this point, you wind up seeing Sanji and Zoro, coming through the crowd, and they're running towards him. And then basically Zoro's like, we got to take out that platform, right? So Sanji, either with his kicks or Zoro with his swords, are going to try to get to that platform. Alvida's crew and Buggy's crew, whatever's left of them, basically they're like, go stop them, right? Because Buggy's sitting there, and this is all happening very quickly, So Buggy's about to go and pull his sword up and chop his head off and execute Luffy, right? So while this is all going on, all their pirates jump down, and they're trying to slow them down, and Sanji's like, if I can just get to the platform and kick it over, and then Zoro's like, if I could just get it to and slash it down, and they're trying to take out guys left and right, trying to get there, and right before, and Buggy goes and he's like, you're just a second too late, and he goes to raise up his sword, and he's gonna cut Luffy's head off, and as that happens, almost like in slow motion, Luffy goes and he says, Sanji, Zoro, Nami, Usopp, and then he goes, sorry, and basically like, sorry, I'm I didn't make it, I'm gonna be killed, and he faces his fate, right? And then he goes and smiles and kind of laughs, and you're like, wow, is this kid just crazy, or is he just really have that strength of will and determination that he's not scared in the face of certain death? And even Captain Smoker goes and he's just like, he laughed, right? Well, while all this happens, at this time that the storm clouds have moved in, and all of a sudden in the next panel we get this cool double-page spread where the lightning just comes in and goes right and hits, nails the platform falls into the crowd, there's rubble everywhere, smoke, and then we just go and we see Luffy's hat kind of float down, and we see a couple of panels with Luffy's hat, and you're thinking, man, did he get him? Did he whatever? Now, I'm going to bet that he didn't, okay, just based on the fact that there's 719 or 20 chapters, 600 and something after this one. But, you don't know exactly what's going to happen. You don't know if he got injured or what the deal is. Well, Luffy winds up in the next panel just kind of like, he, I made it, right? And Buggy's laid out, he's knocked out. And Alvida and the Kabaji and the rest of the pirates are just kind of all standing there like, what the hell, right? So now Sanji, Zoro, and Luffy are together. Sanji says, do you believe in a higher power? Zoro's like, oh, whatever, enough of that nonsense, let's get out of here. And Luffy's just like, whew, that was close, right? So they're all going to take off and go back towards the ship. Captain Smoker now is basically just like, all right, everybody get in, surround them, get them, and then when they go and they start taking off, he's like, which way did they head? And he goes, oh, they're headed west, and then Captain Smoker goes, well, that's right towards, Squadron 1 or whatever, right? And then he says, no, actually, the flash flood type thunderstorm that came in and moved in so quickly, it got their gunpowder wet. They went back to base to go get more, right? Captain Smoker makes mention, too, of, and he asks one of the guys, says, have you ever seen anybody get executed and laugh right before they got executed, or, smile, basically, He says, no, every man has fear in their eyes, before they're in the face of certain death. And Captain Smoker says, well, he didn't. He laughed. And then he goes and he says, I saw one other person 22 years ago. And this is the comparison to Gold Roger, the former king of the pirates, right? The self-proclaimed king of the pirates, And, he's this one that right before his execution, he started this golden age of piracy. And so it's kind of cool. In my mind, that's kind of comparing Luffy and, what 99 chapters ago looked like just this goofy kid with this enormous dream that he could never, ever possibly accomplish. To me, now, it's a couple steps closer to reality. You know what I mean? We at least know that he has the heart, the will, and the determination and the desire. You know what I mean? So he certainly got that single one-track mind with things, So anyway, Captain Smoker goes and then they go in and he says they're headed west and there's a west tailwind, so basically they're gonna be able to get to their ship quicker. And Captain Smoker even says, he's like, Jesus, it's almost as if like kind of like the stars have aligned, like there's a higher power that wants to keep this kid alive. So he goes and this is the end of the volume too, and he goes and he says, I, White Chase Smoker, captain of this battalion, will make sure that he does not leave this this town. So that's how things end, and that's how things wrap up for this volume. All in all, like I said, I think it was very good. This has been, and to my knowledge, is kind of a shorter story arc, but I think it's nice because things kind of built up and the shit hit the fan quicker, and we've kind of seen some development and then now some action, and again, very, very cool. So the question for this chapter is going to be, and again, I mean, I know that you all know what Luffy's like, 720 chapters into it, but right now, where you're at, okay, thinking about things in your particular life, if you were faced in a similar situation with certain death, would you cry? Would you beg for your life? Would you smile and laugh it off? Would you try to make a bargain? What would you do if you thought that you were faced with certain death? And I don't care what situation you want to put yourself into, imaginary or otherwise, but if you were faced with certain death, what would you do? That's my question. So leave your answers in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button if you think I deserve it, or for that one or two people out there that consistently seem to hit the thumbs down button, that's fine as well. That is your right. And then, of course, subscribe if you haven't done so already. We will look forward to catching you in the next one and in the next volume, Nation.
As always, thanks for watching, brothers and sisters, and remember, join the Nerd Nation. It's the right thing to do. Trust me. Tell them Jim sent you.